Good morning and welcome to episode 38 of a Disney Life podcast. This is a place where friends new and old can come together to share in our Disney travel experiences with each other. My name is Rachel and I'm joined this morning by my co-host Missy. Good morning.
Hello, Rachel, and hello to all of our listeners out there. We appreciate you joining us to chat about Disney this morning or afternoon, whatever time it is. It's
Well,
morning
yeah,
right
we're
now
at
when we're
whatever time
recording
you're
this.
listening.
Yes.
Today, we are going to be taking a close look at Disney's Art of Animation Resort. This is a value resort located on Disney's Skyliner route, and it has a mix of standard rooms and family suites that are themed after some of the most beloved Disney films. Plus, it is home to the largest pool on Walt Disney World's property. So, we thank you for joining us today as we move into our discussion about Disney's Art of Animation Resort. So, Art of Animation began its phased opening on May 31st, 2012, and that opening continued for the next several months until September 15th, 2012. The resort has nearly 2,000 family suites with themed room interiors. These are interior entry suites, which we'll get more into those later on in the episode, and 864 standard rooms. Let's start out with the main building when you check into Disney's Art of Animation Resort. That is called Animation Hall. This is a large building. It's going to house the arcade. It also houses the quick service location there and the shop where you can go and buy lots of souvenirs called the Ink and Paint Shop. This is also where you will find the bus locations located outside of it for bus transportation. So Missy, when you walk into Art of Animation, what pops into your head when you think about the lobby area there?
Well, actually, it's very colorful. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. The entire resort is designed in a way that you see the animation process from sketch to full color. But when you walk into the lobby area, you see a lot of color. You do have your check in area there as well. Of course, if you've done the online check in, you could go directly to your room, but the cast members there in the lobby area are always very helpful. When I stayed there last summer, we did online check in, but we needed to go down 3 or 4 times for some various issues with my Disney experience that we needed a hand with. And each of those times, the cast members at the front desk were super helpful. So they have redone the lobby a little bit over time. It's very user friendly now with the little countertops for the cast members to stand at and help you if you need a hand. And I like the layout there. All of the value resorts tend to have a similar layout with their main building housing the food court area and the shop. And I think that works really well. As Rachel had mentioned, the bus service is just outside of the main building. She had also mentioned earlier in the intro that this is a Skyliner resort. So the Skyliner itself is actually the opposite side of the resort as the main building. So depending on where you want to go for the day would determine how you're going to start your day, really, which, duh. I mean, it's silly to say that. But what I'm specifically thinking is if you're going to grab breakfast and you have resort rapid refill mugs, you may want to plan in who's going to take those mugs back to your room because you could have quite a hike to get back to the room from breakfast if you're planning on going right to the bus station, which would take you to Magic Kingdom or Animal Kingdom or Disney Springs. But if you're going to be heading to the Skyliner, you're going to be walking back across the resort anyway. And sometimes, specifically if you're in one of the Finding Nemo rooms, it's super convenient to just swing back to your room en route to the Skyliner. So overall, I think the resort has a great layout, and I think it's a super fun looking resort. I love the theming of all of the areas as well.
Yes, I agree. I think this is probably my favorite layout of the value resorts because really Animation Hall is very centrally located, where you have just this section of cars over, if you're walking out towards the Skyliner, the section of cars is over to the right. Nemo's kind of straight in front of you, and then over to the left, you'll have the Lion King and Little Mermaid. So although it is a very large resort, I don't think it feels too large because of the location of Animation Hall. But yeah, so when you mentioned the kind of the animation process, that's exactly what I think of when you walk in and you have all the scenes from classic movies that are showcased throughout the resort with Little Mermaid, Lion King. You see kind of their thought process, early sketches of what Ursula would look like. That's one of the ones that sticks out to me. But yes, cast members there are super friendly and super helpful. Never had an issue there that they were not able to solve, and I think that's a big selling point for just the values in general, which we'll talk about later.
Like many of the resorts at Christmas time, I think this one in particular is super beautiful because I love what they do with their Christmas tree there. So when you walk into the lobby, you'll see the Christmas tree, and it is a bright white gleaming tree that has very colorful ornaments on it. And I think that was a great way to make it stand out and add to the colorful decorations that they already have in that lobby there. So Christmas time at Art of Animation is one of my favorite times of the year there. Like I
Agreed.
pretty much say that about every single resort,
Well,
I
yeah.
guess. But really, when I think of my favorite trees, the one at Art of Animation, I think is one that stands out most to me. It's not anything on the giant grand scale of what you'd see at Wilderness Lodge or Animal Kingdom Lodge or the Grand Floridian. It's not that huge of a tree, but it is very noticeable and eye catching. So it's fun. It's a fun, pretty tree. Rachel had mentioned a couple of the courtyards in what she just spoke about with the theming of the resort. So before we get into what each of those are and what they offer, I wanted to mention how this resort came about. So it's kind of interesting that it's located on Hourglass Lake, just like Disney's Pop Century Resort, but it has very different theming than Pop Century. And there's a reason for that. So Art of Animation was originally not scheduled to be Disney's Art of Animation Resort. It was originally going to be Disney's Pop Century Resort, the legendary years, which would have covered the time frame from early 90s through 1940, similar to the way that Pop Century, what is the classic years that we know now, just as Disney's Pop Century Resort, covers the 1950s through the 1990s. So it was going to be a similar type thing. But in 2001, when it was under construction, of course, we had the devastating 9/11 situation, and all of the construction stopped down there in Orlando because travel stopped for quite some time. And those buildings actually sat empty for many years. I would say it had to be almost 10 years with nothing happening to them. It was just the shells of some of the buildings. I could remember being on the what they call Generation Gap Bridge that goes across Hourglass Lake there from Pop Century, and they just had it walled off there. You couldn't go all the way around the lake. You could just go over half of that bridge and see the shells of those buildings that were there. I can specifically remember looking over and seeing the buildings which are now the Little Mermaid courtyard rooms.
Mhm.
So it was great news when we heard back in the late 2010s that they were going to be building a resort there finally with these shells of buildings, and that they had a whole new theme for it. And it was going to be a Disney based and animation based theme for this resort. So it has a pretty unique history there. Most Disney hotels, they come up with what it's going to be and then they build it, with the exception of whatever's happening over there between Wilderness Lodge and Fort Wilderness. It's been renamed a few times and
Yeah.
had some changes. But Art of Animation is here and here to stay, at least for the foreseeable future. It offers some great family suites, which is something very special about it. These are more affordable than what you would experience with the deluxe villa options. Of course, the deluxe villas are part of Disney's Disney Vacation Club timeshare program, and any guest can just book one of those hotel rooms for a nightly stay, just like you would based on their inventory. But they are a lot pricier than what you would get on the value level for these rooms at Art of Animation. So they did give us a little trial run on those with the rooms over in All Star Music. They have some family suites there, but I think the layout at Art of Animation may be a little better than what you have over at All Star Music. What do you think, Rachel? I could see it going either way.
I actually prefer the layout at All Star Music. I like the separate kitchenette area, and the
Uh-huh.
bigger kitchenette area there, plus the 2 Murphy beds.
That's true. The beds are better at All
Yeah.
Star Music than they are at Art of Animation.
Yes, so I like that aspect of it. However, the family suites at Art of Animation, they're very now, as much as it doesn't sound like it's a huge space, these are, I had the amount, let me see if I can find it, 665 square feet. So while that does not seem like a huge amount of space, it really is. It's very open. When you walk in. Now, when the first Murphy bed, that is the table, is, well, I guess it's the only Murphy bed. When the only Murphy bed that is the table is pulled down and set out, now, it does feel a little bit more crowded in that doorway area there. However, when you first walk in, it's kind of a big open space, which is nice. It's a nice place for the kids to kind of play around if you're traveling there. But I mean, honestly, All Star Music Family Suites win for me. I prefer that layout better. However, Art of Animation Family Suites do not have a bad layout.
And it could just depend on your family dynamic, what needs you have, how many kiddos you have traveling with you, and what type of bed they prefer. So for the sake of the family suites, we'll mention first what they all are, and we'll kind of go courtyard by courtyard to tell you a little more about it. But all of the layouts inside the family suite rooms are the same, other than the decorations and theming in them. So we'll go ahead and tell you what the rooms are like first. So you have the Cars courtyard, the Finding Nemo courtyard, and the Lion King courtyard. And all three of those courtyards are all family suites. There are no regular rooms in those three courtyards. It's only family suites. The only regular rooms at this hotel are located in the Little Mermaid section. We'll get to that in just a bit. So when you walk into your family suite, the first thing you'll come to is an entryway area that's a kitchenette area. So you have a table that has 4 chairs at it. Typically, those chairs can easily be stacked or moved around the room as needed. You'll want to move those if you need that sleeping space because that pulls down to a double bed. So it is not a queen bed like you see a pull down at some of the villas. It is just a double full size bed for 2 people to sleep in. So a little cozier. But my husband and I have slept on them before just for a couple nights and they've been fine. I wouldn't recommend this for adults, several adults sharing a room as much as I would a villa. It really is designed more for a family that has 1 or 2 adults with several younger children that can't fit into just one hotel room or that needs a little space. Connected right there to that entry and table area will be a bathroom. You have a full bath that has the sink and the toilet area and a tub and shower there. So that's super handy. And that's in addition to in the master bedroom, where you will find another bathroom that has a shower and the sink and toilet there too. So you're getting double the bathrooms in your family suite. The
Which is
bedroom air
a big selling point. That is a huge
is.
selling point, regardless of your how your party is configured, to be able to have that separate bathroom and separate area. And they are both behind a door as opposed to a curtain or a
uh
sliding door. So that's also very convenient if you have children that are sleeping in that living area. Because I've stayed with a variety where I've slept on the Murphy bed before. And so having that bathroom out where my children are still able to sleep and able to get ready behind a closed door, not disturb them with a light or a noise or anything like that, is very useful and very helpful.
Yes, it is an actual bedroom with a big door that closes, and your bathroom is inside the bedroom area. And that door closes also. So lots of
Mhm.
privacy there. The bedroom does have a regular queen size bed, which I have always found to be comfortable. It has a pretty large size dresser for storage, as well as a hanging rack behind the door. So you have a lot of space to stick your things away or to move the chairs from out in the other room if you needed to move them out of the way to give yourself some more space from out there by the table. Then you're going to have just beyond the bathroom, the rest of the kitchenette, which is going to be a counter that has a small refrigerator and little microwave, plus an additional sink out there also. That's where your coffee maker is going to be. And you have a little bit of counter and shelf space out there if you have any snacks or goodies that you plan on keeping in the room. And that's located right next to the couch that folds out. Now, this couch I've heard people say could be the least comfortable sleeping space on property.
Really?
Yeah.
I would honestly disagree with that.
Really? Okay, so what's worse? What's less comfortable than that?
I think, some of the resorts with the old fold-out couches, like old Key West, things like that, where they have not renovated to the Murphy bed, I think those are more uncomfortable. The
I didn't realize those still existed at this point. So, okay.
Yes, I think there are still resorts that do not have the Murphy bed, the villas. Animal Kingdom is one that comes to mind. I think
Okay.
depending on where you're staying at Wilderness Lodge, which side. So the sofa bed at Art of Animation, the mattress is segmented. So when you pull it out, the segments come out with it, but it's not one of those that has the bar. Where if you think of a standard hotel that you go into and you have the pull out sofa, you pull out the bottom and there's that bar that you have to lift up and the mattress is all weirdly folded underneath it. You don't have that situation going on here. You're
You
literally
won't
just
have a
sliding.
drooping mattress because you have a super firm mattress that's
Well,
going nowhere.
it's going nowhere.
It's quite solid.
Yes, it is quite solid, but I think, there are definitely worse fold-out couch situations that you can find at resorts, but I didn't think it was too bad. No, I did not sleep on it. I wanted to sleep on it. Last time I stayed at one of the suites, my mom was traveling with us. It was my mom and myself and my 3 children, so I let my mom have the bedroom to give herself some privacy, and I slept on the Murphy bed with my daughter and, gave my son the pull-out sofa, and my youngest was in a crib still, so which we did actually get an actual crib. It was a smaller crib, it was more of a travel crib, but we got an actual crib at Art of Animation. That's not guaranteed, but you can make a request or ask your travel agent to make a request for those. But it was not a pack and play, it was an actual crib. So she was asleep in that. Now, there was one night where my daughter was just squirming and squirming and squirming. And so I just kind of said, okay, well, and my children had been fussing at each other as siblings do. So I said, okay, if you guys don't stop, I'm going to take the sofa bed. I don't even care. And I actually sat down on top of it and it wasn't too bad.
Well, there you have it. Teach their own, I guess. So, but yes, it is.
Absolutely.
It is a fold out couch. It is not one of the pull down Murphy beds like you will see in most of the villas at this point. There is
Well, and
actually a.
I think that's where All-Star Music also, like I mentioned the beds, I think that's where it
Mhm,
wins for me too, is that you do have 2 actual Murphy beds, so the comfort level is not as much of an issue. Those mattresses are a little bit
mhm.
firmer, than the regular bed, but it is a much more comfortable sleeping situation no matter which bed you find yourself in.
And you will have more storage space out there in that area and a TV. And there's also a TV in the master bedroom. So
Mhm.
it's a nice layout. Depending on the section you're in, you're going to have very different decor in them. And they are all so well done, I think. I think the Imagineers did a fabulous job when designing what the interiors of these rooms would look like. So
Yes.
I believe the Cars courtyard has 3 separate buildings. So there are far more Cars themed family suites than there are Little Mermaid or Finding Nemo. I think there are 2 Lion King ones, there are 2 Finding Nemo buildings, but there are 3 Cars buildings. And the Cars buildings, I think what stands out the most to me, I remember when I first saw them, where the chest of drawers for the dresser looked like a toolbox with that galvanized looking front. I don't know the proper term for it, but if you know what a legit toolbox looks at, like I'm thinking like a snap-on type toolbox situation, that's what the dressers and drawers look like. It's a lot of fun. And everything down to the shower curtains in the family suites are all specific to what you have going on. The couch in the Cars family suite looks like a bench seat in a truck to me. I don't
Mhm.
know if that's what it's supposed to look like, but that's what it looks like to me, the look of it, the upholstery on it and everything, so it's a lot of fun. Over in the Lion King section, you'll have Timon and Pumbaa. The thing that stands out the most to me in there, is the sunset, like that quintessential Lion King scene, that sunset there. I think it is on the tile shower, if I remember correctly. I don't think it's on a shower curtain, it's the shower
Yeah, I
itself.
know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah. These are by far the most themed rooms at Walt Disney World, where, other value resorts, you'll see the theming on the outside, but these rooms are very themed. The Lion King suites are a little busy. The
You've
colors are
got a lot
loud.
of bright green, lime green,
Yes.
chartreuse green,
Yes. The
and
colors
the
are very
orange and
loud.
the yellow, very bright.
Yes. However, this was the first, family suite section that I stayed in at Art of Animation. I've stayed in every room type in the section there except for the Cars area. But this was Lion King was the first area that I had stayed at before, and, I really didn't find it all that bad. I think the pictures, maybe with people editing them, brightening some of the colors, but it wasn't all that bad once I got into there. So I kind of turned my nose up a little bit to some of the theming before I'd actually stayed there, but once I did, I really did enjoy the resort.
Yeah, I didn't think it was bad at all. I mean, it's bright, but it's not
Yeah.
offensively bright to me in
Right,
any
you
way.
can still
I mean,
sleep
it's
at night.
equally I guess it just depends on what type of color you lean towards because I think the Nemo rooms are equally as bright, but they're blues and purples rather than the greens and yellows and oranges. So it's just different. And in the Nemo rooms, you're really feeling under the sea there. And if you have a room that looks out towards the center where the big blue pool is, you'll be just right there under the sea with Nemo the
Yeah.
entire
The
time.
whole time, yeah.
So they did redo these rooms a few years back. They're not the same as they were when they were originally open. They removed the carpeting in them and they have
Mhm.
laminate floor now, which I do prefer. it's able to be cleaned a little bit more. Of course, there's a lot of use in these rooms. So when you have the wear and tear with carpeting, it can feel a little ooky over time. So I do appreciate that they have the laminate floor in there now. But overall, like Rachel said, these are the most themed rooms you're going to find at Walt Disney World. They are far more themed on the inside than the All Star Resorts or Pop Century Resort. You have a lot of theming happening in them, a lot of
Yes.
character things happening. So you can book these resorts, these resort rooms, one of two ways. You can book a specific courtyard, which will cost you a little bit more, or you can just book an in general family suite option that'll give you a little bit of a savings on the cost if it's available. And they will assign which courtyard you're in at the time you arrive. You can make a request either by calling Disney or asking your travel agent to put in a request for your courtyard if you book the family suite option, but it is not guaranteed unless you book the specific room type. And I believe typically, I think it's still accurate to say that the Finding Nemo rooms are kind of the preferred option there and come with a slightly higher nightly rate than what the Cars and the Lion King rooms are at. So
Yes. If you only book the family suite, you do not specify, you would be assigned either Lion King or Cars because they do consider Finding Nemo to be preferred because of its location around the pool, its location to Animation Hall, and also its location to the Skyliner. So those would be considered preferred rooms. But really, anywhere, any suite building is not a bad location. You're pretty close to where you need to be. So I'll say that with that. And also, one thing that I really love about the suite buildings is that they are interior entrances, which makes this a unique feature of this value resort. You cannot say that about the Little Mermaid rooms. These are exterior corridors, but I do like the interior corridors and interior entrances for the suite buildings. I think that's a nice added perk and value. However, if you're on an upper floor, you do not does not come with a balcony. You just have windows overlooking the whatever you're overlooking. So it could be the courtyard area, the pool, where the Skyliner is located. That's actually a nice viewing area to open up your window and sit out and see the Skyliner go by.
So, for the sake of size comparison, each family suite is the size of two of of a standard regular value resort room. So, you are gaining a bathroom in the fact that you have a family suite, but technically, if you booked two regular rooms with and got a connecting door, you'd have two bathrooms then also, and you'd have more real beds, I guess you could say,
Yeah.
rather than the convertible option. So the option to do something like that at this resort would only be in the Little Mermaid section. The Little Mermaid rooms are the standard rooms. All of them have two queen beds. They've also been redone with the laminate floors. They have a bathroom area with the sink and then the toilet and tub shower combo. They're very basic rooms, just like the rooms at Pop Century and Art of Animation. However, they do have two actual beds instead of the queen bed and the fold down Murphy bed. So that's one thing to consider. And they are very well themed with the Little Mermaid inside also.
Yeah, I think these were the first value rooms to have 2 queen beds. Am I correct in that? I know that now with
Mhm.
the way that the setup is, it's queen beds, but I believe before this, all the beds were 2 full beds in values. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Before they did all of the refurbishments on the value resorts, they were just the full size beds in the values and the moderates. They've all been redone over the years to meet guest demand for
Yeah.
wanting larger beds. I think we've got queen beds everywhere at this point, but this one does really have two true queen beds. Now, one question I hear from people a lot about the Little Mermaid area is, well, she's a princess and I've got little boys that are into pirates and Star Wars, is it going to be too princessy for them if my kids aren't princess fans? I would say it is not too princessy. You do
Mm.
have that under the sea type feeling in there. It is kind of similar to the color palette that they use over in the Nemo rooms. But the courtyard of the Little Mermaid, of course, does have a giant, larger than life Ariel statue, but not just Ariel. You'll see Ursula and King Triton and all of your beloved Little Mermaid characters out there in the Little Mermaid courtyard. So I do not feel that this is too princessy. If there could be such a thing, this is not too princessy of an area. So don't hesitate to stay there just because your family doesn't love the Little Mermaid. These rooms are a great option for families who have kids of all ages or even just adults. The one thing that I think is the downfall of these resorts, of these rooms at this particular resort, is that the Little Mermaid rooms are the furthest rooms from the main lobby area, but they're also very close to the Skyliner. So I think
Mhm.
adding in that Skyliner option has really kind of flipped everything around and made what used to be known as a negative room, not the best room on property, given it a big bump up so everything's evened out a little bit more there.
Yes,
So
and also,
go
well,
ahead, Rachel.
since so much of it is a straight shot from the main building, it really is a nice walk. Walking from the Little Mermaid area to, if you're walking to Animation Hall, you'll walk through the Lion King area. I'll also mention with this resort, so another thing that separates it from All Star Music Suites is that All Star Music Family Suites are also located in a building that still has standard rooms. So let's say you're taking a multi generational trip. If you're like me and you have a family of 5 or 6 and you need a family suite, but then grandparents are coming along and they don't. They just could use a standard room. At All Star Music, you could potentially be in the same building with a request. Here at Art of Animation, you cannot. I know Missy already mentioned that the suites buildings are the suite buildings, and then you have the standard room. So if you're traveling like that and you do want to stay at Art of Animation, because it does definitely have its benefits and its perks, it's also fairly easy to find a discounted room right here, especially for the family suites. These are typically discounted when discounts come out. I've seen Little Mermaid get discounted more and more over the last few years. For a while, you could not find a discount at a Little Mermaid room whatsoever. But if you decide to stay as a multi generational family, but you have guests in your party who do not need the suite and want a standard room, my recommendation is that they book a Little Mermaid room. You book a suite in the Lion King section, book a specific that you are staying in the Lion King section, and then you can call the Walt Disney World or have your travel agent, and they can request certain buildings for both of your rooms to be in where you're very close to one another. You will not be right beside each other. Obviously, there will be a walkway in between your buildings, but it will just be the next building over. That is a possibility that you can work out.
So we talked a little bit about the decor outside in the Little Mermaid area. Another important thing to mention there is that they do have a pool in that area. So Art of Animation does have 3 pools across the property. One is located in the Little Mermaid area. There is a locker room and some laundry facilities there also, so that's handy to have. The Lion King area is the only area that does not have a pool of its own, but it has what they refer to as a playground. So you can kind of
That's a
climb.
loose term there.
It is. There are some areas for the kids to climb around. It's actually listed on My Disney Experience app in that area as being the elephant graveyard. So
Yes.
that is what that area is called. You will recognize it from the movie. There are places to climb around and play, but you don't have a big jungle gym or anything like that happening in that area. I
Yeah,
think,
so
go ahead.
our last episode, we mentioned things to do around your resort when you're not at the park, and we talked about playgrounds. Now, at Art of Animation, there are 2 areas that are designated as playgrounds. You have the Elephant Graveyard area, which again, if you walked by it, you would never think about it being a playground, but that is what is there for. You also have Squirt's Righteous Reef, which is a Nemo themed playground. So these do not look like your typical playgrounds. There's a slide at the Righteous Reef. It's a very small slide. These are just kind of little areas for kids to climb on and get some energy out. But you don't have, I'm thinking even the other resorts where you see a playground where it looks like a little playground that you would find. They're not massive, they're not big, but you can tell it's a playground, like a backyard playground. These look very different. They're themed, whereas some of the other resorts are not necessarily themed.
And the Righteous Reef Playground is located right in the center of the resort where the Big Blue Pool is located. So you have the Big Blue Pool, which is one of the largest, I think the largest pool
It
on
is the
Disney
largest,
property.
yes.
They have some music. I believe the music underwater still works. You could hear some music if you're swimming underwater there. And they have the schoolyard spray ground, which is their name for their little splash area that's located between the pool and the Righteous Reef playground. So it's a super cute area also. It has the laundry facilities there. There's, I think, 3 different laundry facilities at this resort. That's the second one. Of course, the last one, if you haven't guessed it, is in the cars area. And the drop-off bar is located at that pool as well. So you can access the drop-off bar just outside of the pool area, and they do do have a lot of different snacks and a refill station there as well. Now let's head over to what is my, I think, favorite pool at Art of Animation, which is surprising because I love blue and I love under the sea things. So you would think the big blue pool would be my favorite, but I absolutely love what they have done over in the Cars courtyard, which is the Cozy Cone pool. And I think what I love the most about this is that they have giant cones that look like a road cone, big orange road cone that you could actually go inside. And these are little private cabana areas that are available at no charge, first come, first serve. And they are available to you during any time that the Cozy Cone pool is open. I think these are absolutely adorable. We have had a lot of fun having some pool days using these cozy cones as a little bit of shelter from the sun as needed. And I just think overall, the cars section is my favorite section of the resort because I feel like when you're over in the Little Mermaid area and there's a giant Ursula and a giant Ariel and giant King Triton, they're super cool to see, but their sizing is a little bit off. You know, when you're down in the ocean, you expect Ariel to be human size, not giant the
Yeah.
size of a building, right? So I think that's part of the reason why I really love the cars section because they have the cars and they are normal car size. You can meet all of your favorites from the Cars movies right there in this courtyard. It's an amazing place to get photos if you have any Cars fans in your family. And they just seem like a reasonable size. And I think to me, that's what makes it the most impressive and the most magical.
So, I actually our first time going to Cars, so I Art of Animation over in the suite area. I actually was there with you for an event one time and we walked around that area. And that was my first time in that area of the resort. First time
Uh-huh.
at Landscape of Flavors. We had lunch over there. And then my next trip, yes, we did go. We made a special trip over there just because I had a little boy who loved cars. And Lightning
Uh-huh.
McQueen, he called him Ka-chow because that's what he always said, so that was his little
Uh-huh.
thing. He
Uh-huh.
carried around a Lightning McQueen at that point, and it went everywhere with him. In fact, my husband still has one. We had, like, I don't know, 10 or so in rotation. My husband still has one in his own vehicle that he carries
Aw.
around in his glove box because it just reminds him. I mean, the days are long, but the years are short, and we don't have a little boy that carries around toys anymore. So, but
Before
yeah,
you
that was our
know it,
first
he's
date.
going to want to drive a real car, Rachel, and that will be terrifying
Yeah,
for you.
that's what we're facing next. That's why we went over there so we could go and show him the Cars area, and he went up to Lightning McQueen and kissed Lightning McQueen on the hood. So, he loved Cars for so long, but, yeah, I think the Cozy Cone is probably we've talked about, there's no really official designation for a quiet pool, but this is definitely a quiet pool. It's a lot less crowded over there. You do have those kind of cabana style cones. This is the smaller of the 3 pools. If you're looking at, pool size, let's see, the big blue pool is goodness, 3, 4 times it's 4 times as big as this one. So that tells you anything is about how much water it holds. It holds 4 times the amount of water. But yeah, I think this is a fantastic theming area. And I do agree that the whole Cars area is wonderfully themed. If you've been to Disneyland at the Cars Land area, it kind of similar to it. It's not as elaborate as the entire land is at Disneyland, but you see a lot of the similar elements throughout that part of the property. I would say probably Lion King would be pretty similar too, because I think the sizing of the statues there is a lot more similar to what you would expect. There is one statue over in the Little Mermaid area that's probably pretty true to size, and that is the Prince Eric statue. So at the film where the statue falls into the water, they have that over there located too. But yes, Ariel is massive and Triton is massive. Ursula is massive. That's everything over there is so large. And things in the Finding Nemo area are so large. They are fun to see, but they are also very large. So if you have fans of cars in your life, definitely head over and check out this entire section.
So Rachel mentioned Landscape of Flavors, which is the quick service restaurant there, the food court area, if you will. We kind of skimmed by that earlier when we were talking about things that are located in Animation Hall, the main building. It's worth mentioning that they have just as many food options there, if not more, than what you would get at the value resorts. And I think that is a great benefit of the value resorts that they have quite a variety of food at their quick service locations. They do have mobile ordering there, of course, but I think sometimes you might see some special things also if you walk up to one of the bays and order at a counter that you may not see in the mobile option line and mobile option online. Of course, this is where you could refill your mugs. They have the large refill stations in there if you have a rapid refill mug. And then, as I mentioned, they also have one out at the drop off bar, which is a little bit more conveniently located. If you're at the pool area, you don't need to go inside to refill your cups. So, Landscape of Flavors, I think, had really pushed different foods and a more expansive menu when they first opened. I think they do somewhat still have that, just not quite as much as maybe they originally did, but you'll find a little bit more there, I think, than at some of the other value resorts.
Yeah, they have a wide variety of entrees, some that are very Asian inspired, with some ramen bowls and things like that, but they also have dishes that like a mojo roasted chicken. They even have fish and chips, but you can find pizza, pasta there. You can also find burgers, chicken sandwiches and salads. It's a fantastic variety. I think there are 5 different food stations there. I could be mistaken on that, but there's something for everybody, that is for sure. And I like the setup where there are tables. There are some tables that are kind of tucked away over into a corner where you can kind of have a little bit more of a quiet spot than opposed to just one big, large, open dining area. So I like the landscape of flavors a lot. I also like that you're close enough to Pop Century that if you want some tie dye cheesecake, you can head over there and get that easily.
You certainly could. It's also worth mentioning that Art of Animation is one of Disney's dog friendly resorts. So you may have some guests there who do have their dogs with them on vacation, and you will see some dog relief areas located around the resort. They are pretty tucked out of the way, but well marked. I don't think you'll see a ton of dogs. It's not like they're going to be running all over. They're certainly not going to be in the pool area or anything like that. But just so you're aware, this is one of the resorts that does allow them. They do not
And
have
I
a
always forget that.
no,
I
well,
do. Well, I remember when this was announced and there was a big concern in the Disney community of what was going to happen to the resorts. Will there be, will the resorts be loud during the day because of dogs barking? I think I've seen 2 dogs at a resort since this whole thing started. And I love my dog now. The dog that we had previously when this start, he was actually too large to be considered. They do have some sizing limits. He was too large to be able to go, but the dog I have now, it's like, maybe if I was at a cabin for a long time, I could take the dog, but he doesn't do well in the car, so that's not gonna happen at the moment, but,
I have never had any negative experiences with dogs at Disney.
yeah.
I have certainly read some complaints online, specifically at Yacht Club with people hearing dogs barking in their rooms. I don't know if it's more frequent over there that people have their pets. There are only a handful of resorts that do allow dogs on property other than service dogs. These are not service dogs that we were talking about. These are
Yes.
dogs that are able to be left in the room for the day when you are not in your room. And that is where the concern for barking comes. But I have stayed at this resort multiple times. I have stayed in every section of the resort and I have never experienced an issue with a barking dog. So I don't really think it's something that you need to be concerned about ahead of time. It is something to consider if somebody in your party has an allergy, a pet allergy, and that's something you'll want to mention ahead of time on your reservation that you need an allergy cleaning before your arrival. Or if it's a severe allergy, you may want to avoid the resort because there is more of a likelihood that they're there. But of course, you could have animals with how frequently we see service animals at the parks. It's definitely possible to have them at any of the resorts. So be mindful of that. There
Yes,
is
and I have heard that Disney keeps the dogs to certain areas within that
Mhm.
resort, so even though this is a dog-friendly resort, they don't put dogs in
Right.
every
They're not in
single
every
section.
single room, right? That you can
Yes,
avoid
so it
them.
is
Right.
possible to avoid that completely, but yes, you do need to make that note known, and I always recommend if you have something special like that, check in at the front desk. Do not do check-in online. Go to the front desk to make sure that they can accommodate your request.
So if you're looking to get a little bit of exercise while you're at Art of Animation, they don't have a fitness center, but they do have a walking path that goes around Hourglass Lake. So you'd be walking half of your walk at Art of Animation and the other half off, you'll be on the side of the lake of Pop Century. And right through the middle of that is the Skyliner Bridge. So if you need to cut it short for some reason, there's that as well. It's also worth mentioning that some of the Little Mermaid rooms are actually possibly closer to the main food area at Pop Century than they are the food area at Art of Animation because they kind of jut out a little bit towards the top of the lake there. So that opens up some additional food options for you as well that Pop Century is as close as it is.
Yes, and it really is a very close walk, and I was just thinking when you were talking about the original concept of Pop Century and how this whole area was supposed to be new sections, I was thinking, I wonder if they were gonna build another main building over in that section because that would be a long walk. That would make it this would be a massive resort had it all been one.
Oh yeah, I think the main building was part of it originally. It was going to be two separate resorts, but sister resorts
Okay,
with similar theming,
got
and it was going to be
okay,
Pop
kind of like
Century
Borderlands.
Classic years and Pop Century Legendary years. Yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense, but I love having that option there. I will mention this. So last week, our question of the week dealt with renting scooters. So excuse me. Well, on my last time staying at Art of Animation, we had rented a stroller, and so I needed to drop off the stroller. Well, I was looking at some times and some things that we had going on, and I ended up switching because Art of Animation stroller drop off was about 45 minutes earlier than the one at Pop Century.
Oh,
So I ended up switching my drop off location. So I picked it up at Art of Animation. And then when I was giving it back to the rental company, I ended up changing my location to Pop Century. And we got the van loaded up, and I just walked the stroller right across the bridge. And I went to the lobby at Pop Century and I dropped it off in time. And that worked out perfectly with our schedule. And I actually believe that I contacted the rental company about 24 hours in advance just to see if I could switch it. And they were willing to accommodate. It was easy and it was quick and it fit our schedule well. So that's another key point if you're staying at either one of those resorts that you could technically use their other one's lobby for a drop off or pickup location if that works better with your schedule.
well, that's an extra little pro tip in there for today.
Yeah.
And that is definitely a benefit to having resorts located in such close proximity to each other. So, if you're listening to this podcast and you're thinking, well, I don't really know if I want to stay there, but it sounds super cute and I would love to go and visit it and take a look, you can absolutely do that. And the transportation options at this resort make it easy. So, if you are coming from Magic Kingdom or Animal Kingdom, you can simply take the bus that goes to Disney's Art of Animation Resort. And if you happen to be at Hollywood Studios or Epcot, you can take the Skyliner to get to Disney's Art of Animation Resort. Of course, that would involve switching at the main hub, the transfer station there at Disney's Caribbean Beach Resort. You'd hop on that line there. But when I say it's quick, it is remarkably quick. I don't think you are on that Skyliner for more than 2 to 3 minutes when you're riding from Caribbean Beach to Art of Animation. And then once you get there, of course, like all Disney resorts, you're welcome to browse the grounds, take some photos, and even get a little bit of a bite to eat at Landscape of Flavors when you're there. So if you think you've got some kiddos or even you want to see your favorite character larger than life or normal life size, if it happens to be a Cars character, this is absolutely an excellent opportunity to do that. And I recommend it. So, whether you've stayed there or not before, I hope you've enjoyed listening to our little chat about it. And maybe it's inspired you to take a stop by there and see all of the art of animation in real life for yourself.
So for today's top five, Missy and I, for once, we did collaborate on this one. We often talk about how we have not talked about our top five before this, but this one we did decide to do something a little different and collaborate. So we are going to be talking about today top five reasons to stay at a value resort. So these are five reasons that we believe value resorts bring obviously a lot of value to families, but they are part of Walt Disney World resorts where you can expect the same service as you can at other locations. So why choose a value resort when I could choose a moderate or a deluxe resort? Well, today we'll be discussing top five reasons why. So, Missy, which one should we start out with? What do you have?
Okay, so the most obvious thing when you're talking about a value resort is obviously the cost. So I think that if you are looking for a resort that is very budget friendly, staying at a value resort is the way to go. As long as your family is four guests or five, if somebody is under the age of three, you can be able to book just one of these rooms there at any of the value resorts. And it could be a great cost savings for you, either to be able to make the trip happen if you're kind of maxing out the budget with the cost of the stay at this resort, or saving a little bit of money to be used towards some extra special experiences like some table service dining reservations or other extra things, maybe Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique, something extra, maybe some souvenirs and merchandise, whatever you choose to spend that money on with the savings between the two resort levels or three resort levels. So the cost, I think, is the main thing. Like that's it may be ideal for you if you're looking to save money, quite obviously.
Yes, I agree with that, and these are often discounted resorts too when discounts are released, especially the All-Stars resorts. You can typically find a discount at the All-Stars resorts. Art of Animation, like I mentioned earlier, these suites are usually discounted. Little Mermaid rooms, you are able to find more and more discounts for those, and Pop also typically has a discount running on those as well. So these are also good ones to find a discount for. If you already have a reservation booked, you may apply that discount right here or contact your travel agent to see if they were able to apply that for you. So, yes, cost is a major factor for these. The next one that we have on our list is the elaborate Disney theming. If you are looking for a resort that is very heavily Disney themed, the value resorts are going to be your best bet. Every single one of those resorts contains a lot of Disney theming throughout. Art of Animation, as we mentioned in the suites, these are the most Disneyed rooms on property, but all of the resorts themselves have statues outside of it. You'll see all sorts of little details and things like that. I would say out of these, probably sports and music would be the least as far as Disney theming goes. Still fun theming, but probably the least out of between the other resorts.
I think that's probably accurate, but there may be more there than you anticipate because even at sports and music, All Star Sports and All Star Music, you do still have a lot of Disney character things going on. They just make them sports related. So, but again,
Yes.
yes, it's the theming. Talk about being in the Disney bubble. That's the way to do it. The value resorts really will make you feel like you're in that Disney bubble all the time. And while I know for some families it's ideal to have more of a seaside feel or whatever resort you may choose, be out on the savannah at Animal Kingdom Lodge. That works great for some trips. But if you're looking to be in that Disney bubble and have that whimsical Disney feel all the time, then the value resorts are probably a great place for you.
Yeah,
The
absolutely, and these are very popular with families with young children. Your young children don't care where you stay. They aren't looking at these things yet, but they do care about walking outside of their room and seeing a giant aerial located there or seeing one of the Dalmatians from 101 Dalmatians or, a Mickey phone. If you remember those, I remember actually having one of those. So, not quite that large, but having one of those Mickey phones. But this is something that excites your children. So, even
Mhm.
if you aren't staying there, we do highly recommend going and checking out some of these locations just to have a place to walk around. When we were there for Hurricane Ian, that is what we spent one day when the parks were still closed, but we could get out of our rooms. We spent the day walking around to the other resorts and letting our kids see all of the other statues there. I know the Toy Story area, All Star Movies, is very popular to see these giant Buzz Lightyears and Woody that you are toy sized compared to them. So that's a
Yes.
fun thing to go.
All right. So the next item on our list of why a value resort might be ideal for your trip is that you can often book two rooms at a value resort for less than the cost of one room at a deluxe resort. Now, I'm not saying that's written in stone. You make the great discount at some point at a deluxe resort, and maybe there's no discount at all at a value resort. But overall, I think most often of the time, two value resorts will cost less than one deluxe resort room. So you really need to take a look at what your priorities are going to be. And if you want some of that space, you may want to book even at a hotel that doesn't have the family suites. You may be able to book two regular standard rooms at a value for less than what you would pay for one room at a deluxe resort. And many guests may not realize if you are a family traveling with two adults and more children than can fit in one standard room at a value resort or any resort for that matter, you are able to contact Disney and have them book one reservation to guarantee two connecting rooms. Now, of course, you pay for both of the connecting rooms, but having the guarantee to be able to know you'll have that connecting door for your family really gives you sort of a family suite type environment, regardless of which hotel you're staying at. So, I mean, two
Yes.
rooms for the price of one, that's a good, that's, I mean,
Yes. Right.
Oh,
And it is only one deposit if you do book 2 guaranteed connecting rooms. But again, if one of your children is 18 and you're traveling with 2 other adults as well, then you are not guaranteed those connecting rooms anymore. So if there are more than 2 adults over the age of 18, however, you could still book 2 different rooms under 2 different reservation numbers and call in to request connecting. Disney will try to accommodate as best and as reasonably as they can. And this is another situation where I do recommend going by the front desk to see if they were able to accommodate your request or if they can move you around or do something to try and make that request happen. So that is something to know, that even if one of your children, and they are still your child, but they are over the age of 18 or over, then the guaranteed connecting will not work.
right. 18 is the magic number there. So I know at Disney we have different ages for different things. For the purpose of dining, when you hit 10 years old, you're an adult. But for the purpose of room reservations, it's when you hit 18 years old. And just to be clear, I wasn't saying you can book 2 rooms and pay for one. You're still paying for 2 rooms in that scenario if you book 2 at a value, but it oftentimes is less than the cost of 1 room at a deluxe resort. All right, Rachel, you want
Yes.
to give them our number 4 for this top 5?
Yeah, absolutely. And that is something that we've talked about quite a bit, that your quick service counter locations at these resorts will have more food options. We have lamented the food options at the Beach Club Resort and at Yacht Club as well. And Boardwalk, that they're pretty limited in what you can find and the variety that you can find. However, these locations at these value resorts have so many food options. And I do believe Disney took into consideration that a lot of the guests staying here are really looking for the best bang for their buck. And so they may not be making the table service reservations that guests staying at deluxe resorts may be making. However, they still want to offer a quality meal for your family. So they have a very large variety. And I would definitely say my favorite resort quick service locations, with the exception of 1 or 2, are going to be located at the value resorts.
Okay, very good. And for our final thing, again, something we've talked about in today's episode, there are tons of photo opportunities at these value resorts. And I would encourage you, if you are planning a trip, possibly a first trip for some younger kiddos, this type of resort is a great place to start a traditional photo. When you're dealing with going to a resort hotel, you don't have to worry about having a park ticket. And there are so many fun and nostalgic places where you can start traditional photos of maybe every time you visit. Maybe you plan on visiting annually or maybe every 5 years. Maybe it's a one and done, but either way, go ahead and find some special spots to take some photos because they are numerous at the value resorts.
They are,
So
and I wanna mention too, this is my favorite Skyliner approach location, my favorite Skyliner, what do we call it, station. I think this is a very picturesque station where you have the Skyliner coming in over the water into the station. So, if you want some good Skyliner photos, I think at the bridgeway between Art of Animation and Pop Century, you can find some of the prettiest photos and prettiest views of the Skyliner at that location. I would say between this one and where Epcot is located, if you're standing over in the France Pavilion and you're looking out over to where the friendship boats are, that's also a very beautiful location to view the Skyliner. But this is my favorite Skyliner station, is located in between Art of Animation and Pop Century. So brings a lot of good photo opportunities there.
all right, and that'll do it for today's top 5. And I guess we can get right into our question of the week. And our question of the week for today is, how far in advance can I see pricing for lightning lane reservations? So for lightning lanes, as you may already know, we've talked about it here before, that if you are a guest at Walt Disney World Resort, you can book your lightning lane reservations 7 days in advance of when you're checking in for your resort. And you can do that for the length of your stay. However, you will want to be prepared by looking at pricing ahead of time so you can determine whether or not you're going to feel like it's worth the cost of that for your travel party. So, starting 3 weeks in advance from the day, you'll be able to see that pricing online. So, you can do this through your My Disney Experience app. Just make sure you're logged in. And when you're right on that home screen there, it will give you the option to purchase Lightning Lane. Don't worry, it's not going to accidentally purchase it without you knowing. It won't even give you access to it to actually book until the day of. But I usually recommend guests looking in this area area to see the pricing. You can go ahead on the calendar and choose the date and the park you're looking for pricing for. And it will also list all of the guests that you are connected with and when the date is that they are eligible to book their lightning lane. So this is a way to look and guarantee that your resort and ticket are both properly linked, as well as the accounts of the people that you're traveling with. Because if you don't see their name or the date that they're eligible listed in there in this area of your My Disney Experience account, then that means something is a little off and you'll need to make some corrections there or contact technical support. So definitely take a look at that ahead of time. Don't wait until the day of because you want to be prepared for it. So that was a good question. Good one. I always think they're
Yeah,
good
very
questions,
good question.
especially if I have a
Yeah.
firm answer and it's not a, well, maybe, I'm not sure, it depends kind of answer. So if you have a question for us, feel free to send it all in here. We have two email addresses, podcast@storybookdestinations.com or a Disney Life at storybookdestinations.com. You could also reach out through us to us through Facebook or TikTok or Instagram. Our handle there is a Disney Life Pod, and on Facebook we do have a Facebook group, and we'd love to hear your questions. However you want to get them to us, send them all in, and we'll try to give them an answer. To wrap it up for today, I have a tip of the week, and this is a question I've been getting a lot lately from people, and I figure I would kind of give it as a tip, and that is to not really worry yourself about using a magic band anymore. There was a time when magic bands were brand new and they were so fun and exciting and convenient and also free, and they're not free anymore. And we also recently lost the resort guest discount for them. And now that we have the Magic Band Plus option, which lights up and vibrates, they cost even more. So your Magic Band will cost you anywhere from $35 to $50 per person. And this is a really large expense. So as much as I hate to tell you to just rely on your phone, you can have your ticket access right there on your phone. You know, if you're scanning in for a lightning lane, as soon as you do it, you're going to pull out your phone anyway to book your next lightning lane. So you might as well just have your ticket in your wallet on your phone and scan it there, or else you could even do it the real old fashioned way and get a hard copy of your ticket and of your resort key also when it comes to that. You could use the app to open your resort room door as well. So there are a lot of options. I just really wouldn't spend the money on a magic band at this point because they're just not really worth the high cost that's into them at this point. And I think that's going to do it for today's episode. We appreciate you hanging out with us today and listening to us chat about Disney. We hope you enjoyed hearing our thoughts on Disney's Art of Animation Resort and that maybe it sparked an interest in that resort to you if you haven't been there before, or maybe if you're thinking about revisiting. We always appreciate you being here and supporting us. We love all of our listeners and we wish you a happy and safe week. We'll chat with you next time.
Thanks for joining in.